Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Tired.
Yeah.
But I had something I was going to mention last time that I didn't, but I guess I could probably say it now.
Sure. You kind of cryptically alluded to it, and I wasn't sure whether to leave it in the episode or not, but
right.
I'm pretty sure it's still there.
Yeah. So I'm actually starting a new job soon.
Woo!
And yeah, it's like, so I didn't know for sure if I had gotten the job last time. And I didn't want to say it because, one, I didn't want to jinx it, and then I also didn't want my current work to know, because that's one of those things where it's like, in an application for a new job, they'll usually ask for what were your previous employments, and like, where are you working? Are you working currently?
Sure.
Can we contact your current employer? And of like, who would want, like, I'm sure there are circumstances where that's fine, but I feel like if you're moving from one employer to another, it is not like known by everybody that you're doing it. Like, you don't want them contacting them, because like, what if you don't get the new job, and now your old job knows you're looking for a new job, and they're gonna be like, well, we know you don't want to be here anymore, so now we're gonna treat you even worse.
Well, maybe, or they might be like, oh shoot, Jeff's trying to leave. We need to give him incentives to stay.
Right.
Give him a raise, you know.
Yeah, but no.
I mean, okay, sorry, I'm joking. That's not a real scenario. Nobody would ever actually do that.
I mean, that's
employers suck.
Right. That's not impossible. It's not like that would never happen, but you know, it's just like,
it's a much rarer circumstance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I've gotten the new job offer, and it's better. Like, you know, it's a job, so it still sucks, but you know, it's better than my current situation. So hopefully by the time this goes out, actually I won't be in the new job, but at the very least be out of my old job. So
okay. Well, let me ask, will you be working with anybody noteworthy?
It's at the same place that Skylar works.
Yes.
So, and it's going to be mostly remote work, so I will be, you know, I'll be working in the same building, you know, because it's our house.
Sure.
I'll be able to work from home most of the week, and that way I can see both Skylar and my dog.
Well, cool. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. So that's fun. Anything exciting going on with you, or?
Not really. I'm frantically looking around the room for anything noteworthy. Not really. No, I mean, we're now recording this after October is over, so I finished watching 31 horror movies.
Right.
And I now have, you know, an extra 2 hours a day that I didn't have for the last month.
Oh man.
So there's that, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, it's another week, it's another episode, it's another everything. So
yeah. Well, cool.
I guess you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So Jeff, I want you to imagine that one day you're laying on the couch. You know, it's late in the evening, but you don't want to go to bed yet. You're laying there. You got the TV's warm glow reflecting on your face. You got the remote in one hand, and you're just kind of like mindlessly just flipping from channel to channel to channel. It's like news, game show, some sitcom or whatever, and then you flip to one channel, and it's a commercial. It's a commercial that you haven't seen before. Now, I know in modern days, we usually avoid commercials like the plague, as you should. But this time, it catches your eye because the thing that they're advertising, it's not, you know, some stupid fryer or vacuum. It's a giant pile of gold.
Ooh.
And it's got like rubies and diamonds, and you see there's like a magic bag that has like more riches spilling out from it, and it's just this giant pile of treasure. And, it's the voice on the commercial is talking about, look at the elegance, look at the grace. And then the logo comes up on the screen as the host of a commercial or whatever. The spokesman comes on the screen. The spokesman, you notice they have to use a wide angle lens because they're so tall, and they're wearing a little suit over their red scaled body. And you realize what this product is. You know what this product is they're advertising, Jeff?
What is it?
This product is the Dragon's Hoard. In my head, I was kind of thinking of Home Shopping Network, not just a commercial, but I didn't communicate that as part of the thing.
No.
Anyway,
that's what was coming to my mind, actually.
Sure. So today's magic item was submitted by Sean M via Facebook. And the magic item is the Poking Stick of Magic Detection.
Okay.
No need for an instruction manual. The name says it all. This 5-foot stick lets you capably reach into neighboring 5-foot squares, if that's how you imagine your existence, to touch that possibly suspicious-looking chest, hatch, or glowing orb. When touching the object, the tip of the PSOMD glows in the presence of magic. This object is designed for the champion fighter on the go who doesn't have the time or the coin to hire a wizard with fancy detection spells. The PSOMD grants its user advantage on any trap or spell saves and disadvantage to any mimics or monsters attempting to ambush the party, giving the more mundane adventurers a fair shake in a magical world. And it even works on mundane traps. The Poking Stick of Magic Detection is a registered trademark of Acme Adventuring Company. Possible side effects include overconfidence, calluses, tennis elbow, constipation, diarrhea, instant and irreversible death, and advantage. No warranty available, no refunds. All sales final. Buy 3 and save. Ba-dum-bum. So yeah, that was that's the item description again from Sean M. Yeah. So what do you think of the Poking Stick of Magic Detection, Jeff?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
10 out of 10, no complaints. No notes.
Yeah. I do like the idea of a magic item being marketed to adventurers, like having commercials for adventurers, like, oh, if you don't have a wizard in the party, you should buy the Poking Stick of Magic Detection.
Absolutely. Yep. I think that's great. The side effects, tennis elbow, constipation.
Yes.
All the hits.
So mechanics wise, what this item does, the Poking Stick of Magic Detection, it glows when you touch something that is magical.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a neat feature. This item is fairly low in power, if that's primarily what it does. But there are various ways of detecting magic. I know in our Pathfinder game, Steve has an ability that is sort of like detect magic, but works a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. Do you recall how that works?
It was read aura.
Is that what he has?
Well, because in Pathfinder, there's detect magic, but it has different levels. It becomes heightened as it levels up.
Right.
Where it's it is a 30-foot ping of you just know that it's a yes or no, is there magic within 30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
You don't and then you can exclude things that you already know about.
Okay.
So if your allies are wearing magical items, you can be well, I don't mean that magical item. And then as it gets heightened, I think you can detect the area that it's in, or I think you can find out what square it's in, and then I think eventually you can pinpoint the actual object or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's read aura as a separate spell that is that's the one that tells you what kind of magic it is, and more it goes more into actually identifying it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of what are some mechanical things we could do to make this item a little bit punchier. I like how, I do like how if you touch it to something, it tells you if it's magical. That's just a neat little thing for an item to do. Getting advantage on any saves against magical or non-magical traps, I think is pretty cool. just by having it in your possession. It alerts you the moment before a trap goes off. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I also like the idea that it gives disadvantage to mimics or ambushes. Like that's a lot to adjudicate, but like even if it's just mimics, if it has just like I don't know, if it acts like fly paper to mimics, I guess mimics are already kind of like fly paper because they're sticky. But if it's like it emits a supersonic sound that only mimics can hear and it makes them like slower or something, I like the idea of that too. I don't know. I like the idea of an item that if you have it on you, it sort of alerts you when there is about to be a trap. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like I kind of see it as like the stick you would stick into like a bear trap to set it off.
Sure.
Kind of, where you're just prodding stuff to set the thing off so you don't get hurt.
Yeah. And then maybe the side effects are actually a thing, but they are the result of that like supersonic noise that the stick is constantly emitting. You won't realize that you're hearing it, but having this thing in your possession that is constantly emitting this high-pitched sound that only mimics can hear will eventually like give you intestinal problems. And
yeah.
I don't know. It was clearly meant just kind of as a joke at the end of the sales pitch. But hey, I'm okay with that being a part of the mechanics. I like the idea of that. Just every week you got to make a Constitution save or suffer some minor ill effect.
Right. Goodness.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have very much else to say. It's a funny item. It's the presentation is pretty good.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I just, in a world with the kobold and the bell, you might be persuaded into thinking that you don't need any other products to help you investigate dungeons.
Right.
But hey, the poking stick of magic detection, it's here for you. When your last kobold dies and forgets to retrieve the bell or whatever.
Right.
That's when you need a poking stick of magic detection. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard. Once again, that was the Poking Stick of Magic Detection submitted by Sean M. via Facebook. Thank you very much, Sean M. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Sean M. and submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard, or they wanted to submit questions for our main segment, or stories for the funeral pyre, retirement village, laboratory, whatever else you want to do with our last segment, how would they get those to us?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And the day that this episode goes out, we are doing the final drawing of the third of the leather goods that we got from Maumee River Leather. So we're going to be, in just a minute, we're about to do a drawing for the leather book cover, which at the time of this recording, I do physically have it here. Didn't have it for a while, but I think it looks fantastic. I have probably put pictures of it up on social media by now. So yeah, it's a great product. I was really happy to get this when it first became available. So Jeff, who is the winner of the final drawing today?
The winner is Black Magus 2651.
Yes, congratulations. Congratulations to everybody. The other two winners, I think the other two winners were Carl L. and the Beverage Tea. Just thank you everybody for entering. Hopefully that's gotten some interest from other people to check out Maumee River Leather. I think they've got a lot of great products. I'm very honored to be good friends with Alan and Delilah, the two people that were on our podcast a while ago. I just think they're great people and I think they make some great stuff. So I'm really happy that we were able to get some of those to give out to our listeners. So
yeah,
big thank you to them. Again, congratulations to everybody who did enter. Sorry, everybody who didn't win, but you can still get all these great products from their website, just MaumeeRiverLeather.com. So yeah, hopefully some more people will go and check out their products in the future. And I'm really glad that we were able to do that. I think that was a really cool idea that Alan actually suggested when I saw him a couple months ago. So yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I guess there's one more thing. Check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. And it just occurred to me, I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the show, and I kind of dropped the ball. I should have mentioned this when they started a while ago. Crit Academy actually has another Kickstarter up. Unfortunately, when this episode goes out, it's only going to be up for one more day. It's closing on the 10th of November. So it's called Extraordinary Expeditions, and it's going to be a collection of adventures. Okay. It looks like a great product. I feel really bad for not having mentioned it before this. I've probably put it on social media by this point, but this episode, when this episode goes out, this is the first time we would have mentioned it on the podcast. So anyway, if anybody happens to read this and they are interested in getting a book of adventures and stuff, go check that out. Once again, it's called Extraordinary Expeditions, and it's from Crit Academy. It's on Kickstarter. I'll have the link in the show notes. And then aside from Crit Academy, go check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast on the network that's still going strong. And then we've got a couple other podcasts on hiatus or that have ended, D&D Character Lab and the Kind GM podcast. So go check out some of those other podcasts. Enough of all that admin. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right, our first question comes from JMLWow123 on Reddit. And they ask, how does a person become a god?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, this is going to vary from campaign to campaign. So I took this more as like, let's say I wanted to have an NPC in my game become a god. Mm-hmm. What are some ways that could happen thematically, story-wise? What are some ways that a person could go about becoming a god, either intentionally or unintentionally?
I was about to go into the explanation. I was about to make a big spoiler for the show Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay.
There's a character. It's like basically the big bad evil is pretty much trying to become God.
Sure.
And it goes through a huge process of pretty much turning an entire nation into into a ritual that like sacrifices a bunch of people and turns them into a god.
Sure.
So yeah, just a huge, a really big like sacrificial ritual. That's a good one.
Yeah. I guess there's classically speaking, I would say, or at least what I've seen in media, in D&D adventure settings and so on. There's two main methods that I've seen used commonly, I guess. And the two methods are, number one, worship. So like basically the idea is that if enough people worship you, you become a god. Mm-hmm. Your worship has power. Even like as far back as like in 3rd edition D&D, like with Eberron, they made it clear that it's your devotion to a deity that gives you cleric powers. It's not necessarily that the deity is giving you that power. So in a similar way, like your devotion to a cause or to a person, to an entity, whatever, can be kind of what creates that divine spark. So if you get enough people to worship you, you will become a god. And then the other method is power, just raw power. I would say probably that's what the Full Metal Alchemist thing was. I could be wrong because I haven't seen it.
Right.
But like the idea being that if you get enough power through whatever means, whether it's a magical ritual, whether you sacrifice enough people and, use that to fuel just a magic ritual to give yourself all of this power, that can make you into a god as well. I feel I'm blanking on exactly what it is, but I feel like there's even been something I've seen where both of those exist in the same universe. Like you can become a god through devotion and you can become a god through just raw power, but the power isn't as strong as the devotion. Like you would need a lot more power to become equally powerful of a god as if you did it like the more quote unquote legit way.
Right. It's the idea of like there's the easy way and then there's the right way or whatever.
Sure.
It's like you can do it you can brute force it.
Yeah.
Or you could do it by, earning people's devotion.
Yeah. I feel like if I'm remembering the Age of Worms adventure path correctly, I think the way that Kyus became a god was through devotion. Like he did some big thing and he got all of his people to worship him, but then also to get that last little bit of power, he killed them all and then used that power to actually become the god. Like he got maybe like 75% of the way there and then completed a ritual that killed everybody but pushed him over that last 25.
Gotcha.
I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. It's been a while.
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah. Another possible way is another god or group of gods give you their power or give you some of their power.
Right. They bestow the rank of god to you.
Yeah. I think in the Percy Jackson series, spoilers for the end of the first series of Percy Jackson books. Percy Jackson he's a demigod to begin with, so he's already, kind of divine. And then he saves the world, whatever. And so then at the end of the first series of books, the rest of the gods are like, okay, well, so we'll grant you one favor. Obviously, you want us to make you a full god, right? Okay, we'll start doing it. And then he's like, well, actually, no, I don't want that. I want something else. So he had the option to become a god, and it was basically just all of the other Olympian gods would have, I guess, given him just some small fraction of their power to bring him into the fold, so to speak.
Right.
Now, when JMLWow123 asked this question, there was a little bit more to the question, and that they seemed to be under the impression. So what they were saying was that they assumed that you become a god when enough people worship you. And so what they were saying was like, does that mean that all kings are basically gods? Because surely their subjects worship them, right? And that's something I don't necessarily agree with. I don't necessarily think that any kings are... I don't think you should assume that kings are being worshipped.
Right.
Maybe that could be a thing that kings are doing in your world. But, I think just having servants doesn't necessarily equate to having worshipers.
Right. I mean, like, our bosses, our managers aren't being worshipped.
No, seriously. My supervisor is no more of a god than I am. Not even a little bit.
So it's like, that's different. That's devotion to devotion to a deity is much different to devotion to like a monarch, because you're devoted because you want to be, you're not devoted because you have to be or need to be. I mean,
it could very easily be a rule in your campaign that you can't become a god. The gods are only the gods because they were gods from the beginning, or whatever made them gods in the first place. Like they're each a personification of some concept or something, like in the Sandman graphic novel series. It mostly follows one of these 7, I guess you could call them gods, but like they're just kind of personifications of death, dreams, destiny, delirium, destruction, despair, and what's the other one? And desire. So it's just kind of like they've always been here. They, since the beginning of time, they've existed. And so you could easily say that the gods in your campaign, they've just always been gods. So nobody else can become a god. But if you're in a campaign like Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk, like in Greyhawk, the god Vecna was once a person. He was a human. He was a human wizard that I think just got so much power he became divine. I'm actually not sure which method Vecna used, come to think of it.
The cost of becoming a god is it costs you an arm and a leg or a hand and an eye.
There you go. So like I've talked about my character Ichi a lot. And in my own personal campaign, like after the campaign ended, I thought about like the stuff that Ichi was doing over the course of the rest of eternity. And I was thinking that, he would become a planar traveler. And at some point I got the idea like, oh, well, what if he became a deity or something? And then I started to think, how did he become a deity? What is he the deity of? And eventually I settled on it's what I said, like you can be granted, another deity could give you their power. And that's basically what happened to him. There was another deity that was kind of like the god of travel, the god of adventure, the god of like experiencing all that the multiverse has to experience. That god kind of got bored and then like left all of his divine power in like a treasure chest somewhere, basically, that only someone who is like truly devoted to being an explorer, being an adventurer could find. And so Ichi eventually found it, and that's how he got his, that's how he became a god.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's, I don't know if I'd say that's my favorite way. I would actually probably say devotion is my favorite way of becoming a deity. I do like the idea of just, you've convinced enough people that you're the real deal, that you have their best interest at heart. And so, you know, people worship you, they give you their power, they give you their devotion, and then you become a god. But I also like the idea of taking a shortcut, because you might not be able to do that.
Right. I don't know. I kind of like I like the big bad evils that do that go through the crazy like power hungry shortcut to try to gain ultimate power.
Sure. I'm sure it's come up on the podcast in the past, but I'll bring it up again. The Kuotoa Race.
Oh, right.
They're these like fish people kind of. And
yeah.
I don't see, because you know, we said like devotion can make, you know, worshiping something can turn it into a god. Kuotoa are the best example of that, because like they legit have this ability to create a god if enough of them believe in it. So their god, Blipdulpulp, is the result of two broken statues kind of got like combined together, because they didn't realize it was two statues. They thought it was one. It was like a humanoid statue and then like a fish statue. They thought that it's a humanoid with a fish head. And so they were like, oh, this is our god now. And then Blipdulpulp came into existence because the Kuotoa believed in them.
Right.
Maybe there's just something special about Kuotoa that makes their belief way more powerful than anybody else's.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fun idea to explore, you know. There was a horror movie that I remember watching a long time ago. I honestly don't remember what it was called. I'll have to look it up. But there was a horror movie that was kind of about... So there's a concept called a tulpa. Are you familiar with this, Jeff?
Not sure.
It's, unless I'm getting it wrong, unless I'm mistaken, it's basically like what we're talking about. The idea of a tulpa is, if enough people believe in something, it becomes real. So like if you go into town and you start telling people, oh, you know, I saw, the house on the edge of town is haunted. And then enough people start talking, oh, you know, I heard this house was haunted. Oh, I heard that house was haunted too. And then you get enough people talking about it, eventually that house will become haunted. Or if you're like, oh yeah, this stick, it's a magic stick. It's a stick that detects magic when you put it near a magic treasure chest. And then you tell enough people, eventually it will become magical. And then, you know, if it is that's the idea of what a tulpa is. And so there was a horror movie that I remember seeing where there was like a college class, I think, that they were trying to create something supernatural through getting enough people to believe in it. But like they didn't have very many people, so they had some kind of a machine set up that would like mimic people's belief somehow. So basically they could turn on this machine, and then for each one of them that believed in a thing, the machine would amplify it. So each person was like 1,000 people's belief or 10,000 people's belief, and so on and so on. So, I mean, I'm liking this idea the more and more I think about it. What if there's an artificer, big bad, that's created a magic engine that takes people's devotion and amplifies it?
Sure. So I remember looking at, I don't know what source this is from, or if it's like an official source or whatever, but like Warforged, when they're created, there is like an imprint of the personality of the person who is like making them or something.
Oh, okay.
And then like as they exist, they kind of take on their own personality, but like the sort of the starting point is like closer to that of the person who was making them at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be interesting if somebody was creating believers.
Sure. Oh, so like they're creating Warforged in order to have them be devoted to them.
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah.
Okay.
They're creating just
Ooh.
a bunch of warforged clerics that are, worshipping them.
Dude, Jeff, now I want to play in an Eberron campaign. I want to play a warforged cleric of the Lord of Blades.
Sure. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Oh yeah. Like the Lord of Blades gets hold of a foundry or a warforged factory or whatever they're called.
Yeah. And then he raises up a bunch of followers, a bunch of clerics, becomes a god, and then wages war on all of humanity.
Yep. Awesome.
There you go. Got a full campaign right there. Another idea that I like of, how a character might go about becoming a god, maybe like, so let's say you can only get a divine spark or whatever from another god, but who's to say all of the gods that exist are still alive? Maybe there are dead gods out there, buried underground, out in space, who knows what. And then, you find one, and then you can kind of like drill into them and get their divine power for yourself. I'm pretty sure that's probably a Planescape thing.
I'm trying to think that like there is something like that.
I feel like there's an astral plane, like there's something about in the astral plane there are the corpses of dead gods just floating out there.
Right, yeah, because isn't the Lich Queen's like...
the Lich Queen's beloved, I think the final part of it takes place on a dead god.
Yeah, like that's where her fortress is on it's built on the body of a dead god floating through the astral plane.
Sure. So like, yeah, you could have a big bad evil guy that has found the corpse of a dead god, and over the course of the campaign is testing out different things to extract divinity from its corpse.
Mm-hmm. In the Warcraft universe, I mean they're called Titans, but they're kind of gods.
Okay.
They might as well be gods. But like the Titans are like they're like Titans, they're big giant people or whatever. But then then the world is also a Titan.
Okay.
So it's like the world of Azeroth is a Titan.
Interesting. I mean, kind of in Greek mythology, Gaia, sure, which is what a lot of mythologies refer to the Earth as. Yeah. Gaia was a Titan as well.
And there's a point in the lore where Azeroth gets stabbed by another Titan.
Okay.
With a giant sword, and then this basically this like magical substance starts bleeding out, and then that is like used to do all sorts of crazy powerful stuff.
Okay.
So it's like the blood of a god, is being used to create all this like power and conflict and stuff.
Sure. That makes me think a lot of Final Fantasy VII. I can't really speak for the remake because it's kind of becoming its own thing. Yeah, that's another
thing I was going to bring up was Genova.
Well, so I mean,
Mako, yeah.
Well, yeah. So what I was going to say is that in the game of Final Fantasy VII, the big bad Sephiroth, his eventual goal is, so the planet has this energy that kind of suffuses all of just everything in the planet has this energy flowing through it, and that is also the energy that makes up people's souls. So when a person dies, their soul goes back into the planet and becomes part of this energy that is just part of everything. Whenever the planet is damaged, let's say like a comet hits the planet uses some of that energy. It sends a bunch of that energy there to repair itself. So Sephiroth's idea, his plan, is to get a big enough meteor to crash into the planet that it has to basically pull all of its energy together, and then he's going to be right there at the center of all of it so that he gets all of that power and he becomes a god.
Right.
Is his idea, his plan. Whether it would work, whether it does work, who knows. But, if that's something that you could set up in your game, that could very much be I'm going to go out on a limb here and say not many people would probably even realize that is ripped off of Final Fantasy VII, because so little of that game was actually, like, so little of what people remember about that game was actually what anybody's plan was.
Right. The actual story was more.
Yeah, everybody just remembers There's materia. There's two big swords.
Oh,
spiky hair. That's all.
Swords and the spiky hair. Well, no, because Sephiroth is like a clone baby of an alien space queen.
When you put it like that, it sounds silly.
No.
But you're correct. Stuff. Yeah.
He's a crazy clone baby of an alien space queen who I don't know wait, isn't that kind of Lavos too? Lavos
Lavos is it's very similar, yes.
Lavos comes to Earth and then basically feeds off the energy of the Earth and then comes out and destroys it and makes Lavos babies.
Yeah, pretty much. Also, the main villain in Wild Arms is the same way. I guess the lesson here is that a lot of JRPGs kind of reuse the same plot, and it's all about aliens coming and devouring the planet. But right. I don't think Genova, Lavos, or Mother, which is the villain in Wild Arms, I don't think any of them explicitly call themselves a god, but they very easily could. Sephiroth had it right. He was like, no, I'm going to become a god if I do this right. So, yeah. So take that. Do that in your campaign and see what your players think.
All right. Our next question comes from Chocolate Bar 376 on Reddit, and they ask, I'm going to be fighting a god soon. What's some advice you can give?
Yeah, I thought this serves as a good follow-up to the previous question. Now, I don't actually plan on actually giving this specific person's characters. They did give some details on what their character can do and what the type of god they're going to fight. I thought we could just use this as an opportunity just to talk about, let's say you want your players to fight a god, or the players find out that fighting a god is an option. What are some things that can be done to make the fight enjoyable, to level the playing field, to, make it something that could actually happen in a game and not just be, okay, it's got this many hit points, roll initiative. Yeah.
Well, kind of going back to the last question, it's how did that god become a god? Maybe you try and figure that out and sort of, try and weaken it with that knowledge. So it's if it was somebody taking the shortcut and brute forcing it, through sheer power, how did they gain that power? Maybe you can find a way to kind of undo that power.
Sure. If I recall, in the Age of Worms adventure path, Kios, he became a god a long time ago, and then he got sealed away inside this tower that he was sort of a focus for all of his power. And the way that his followers were bringing him back was by getting enough souls, getting enough magic, and doing all these things. So they were setting up all of these rituals and these eldritch machines and so on. And so part of the final adventure of that adventure path was going around and ending all of these things that are fueling him. Mm-hmm. So then the idea being that if you stop all of these, if you do all these little side missions first, then when you actually face him, he'll just be, he's like a CR-24 or something. So he'll just be a reasonable fight. However, any of those that you don't do will give him a specific set of bonuses, specific set of abilities, and so on. So yeah, it is kind of going to depend on how they became a god in the first place. So hopefully your DM will be including a lot of that in the setup for the adventure and so on. Here's another idea. Maybe similar to how devotion, if you can get enough people to worship you, you'll become a god. If you can get enough people to hate this god or to turn away from this god, maybe that will weaken them. So if you know that this god is going to be, is going to be the end boss of the campaign, maybe you can go out on a quest to find all of his followers and convert them to a different god, or, maybe kill them, I guess. I don't know. That seems a bit morbid, but if you can just kind of engage all of the god's followers and, try to turn their devotion away from that god, or get them to, I don't know, stand inside an anti-magic field for a certain amount of time or something. I don't know.
Right.
Just, turn their devotion away from that god to something else, I think could weaken them. I think that would be cool.
I'm trying to remember. What's his name? The guy from Jurassic Park.
You're talking about Jeff Goldblum?
No.
Sam Neill?
Yes. Sam. So yeah, the 1998 Merlin
Oh,
with Sam Neill.
okay.
It's the story of Merlin, but Sam Neill is Merlin, and it is very 90s, and it's very awful.
Okay.
But it's whatever. There's like Queen Mab, and she's like this. She's like an evil like witch queen or something. I don't know. It's the story of Merlin. I don't remember.
Okay.
But like basically at the end, like the way that they defeat her, because they're like flinging magic at each other, and it's like really cheesy special effects.
Yeah.
And like the way that she is defeated is like, Merlin's like, Merlin's fighting her, and then she like throws a fireball and it blows open the door, and there's all the townspeople like, hiding behind the door, and like and what happens is like, I don't know. He says something like along the lines of like, "Oh, after this, we're just gonna forget you, and like you won't be around anymore," or that kind of thing. Like basically, like we'll stop remembering you, and then you will no longer exist.
Okay.
And so like just everybody just kind of turns away from her, and then her powers stop working.
Oh, it's like that episode of The Simpsons where all of the Halloween episode where all of the mascots come to life. And if you just stop paying attention to them, they all die.
Oh no.
Like any advertisement, if you just stop paying attention to it, it dies.
Right. So yeah, you just go like, "Oh, I'm not interested in this anymore." And then
well, that actually does make me think of something. So I was talking about like turning the followers away from the deity. So there is in the critically acclaimed TV show Nowhere Man, that a good friend of mine did a very, very exhaustive podcast about. Mm-hmm. The good friend being Steve and myself. There's an episode of this show where there's this guy running for mayor, or maybe he already is mayor. There's this guy that's mayor of this little town. He's running for governor. That's what it is. And he's basically set up a mind control thing that like the TV's news station is always like, anybody who watches it gets like caught under his sway. And the ultimate way to defeat this guy at the end of the episode is, number one, destroy the device that's doing the mind control thing. But also, the main character, Tom Vale, manages to get video of this guy being bad, like being evil. Like he's like making threats. He's like pointing a gun at somebody. He's talking about how the people are, mindless sheep and so on and so on. And then he broadcasts that to the state instead of the big, speech he was going to do. So let's say that this god is evil or whatever, and you want to show his followers that they shouldn't worship this evil being. If you have some way to broadcast the fight to everyone while you're fighting this god, and everybody can see them and can see, oh, they're using all these underhanded tactics and so on, whatever, then maybe over the course of the fight, the god will start to lose their power, because more and more people are getting turned away either by the god's disregard for fairness or, whatever. I guess it works best if it is a god that has deceived people into believing in them. Mm-hmm. If it's someone that used underhanded tactics to gain their power in the first place, it's better for that situation, I guess. But I just love the idea of like broadcasting a fight with a god to the world. Maybe you do that, and as the fight goes on, you start getting more powerful because so many people are seeing you stand up to this, evil deity, and now you become a god because people are worshiping you and giving you their power.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Or just get a whole bunch of really high-level PCs or NPCs. That's that always seems to work.
Right,
that old chestnut.
Yep. Really high level, lots of magic items. You'll be fine. Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just like find out the source of their power, do what you can to strip away their power, do something to give yourself power. Try to do what they did to give yourself power so that you can be on an even playing field with them.
Okay.
Good luck.
Cast as many 9th level spells as you can.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe cast Gate on a Sphere of Annihilation.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
And then send everybody to Arcadia. I mean, hey, 100% of the God fights I've run. That's how they ended. So
Right. Yeah. Every time I fight a god, I'm killed it but yeah. Right.
yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for tonight. But we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, what is the last horror film you watched and how well would your character survive it? Do you recall if you had an answer, Jeff?
I don't know. What was the last horror film I watched? I can't even remember.
I'm shaking my head at you, Jeff.
Well, the most recent one I can remember, I feel like I must have watched something since, but watched the Basket Case movies.
Oh boy, I watched the first one at Skylar's recommendation, and she was like, "Don't watch a trailer. Just go watch this movie." And I did. And boy, was that an experience.
Oh boy.
Okay, so how would Krill survive in Basket Case?
I don't know.
Yeah, if you don't have a good answer, that's fine. It's a weird question, I know.
He'd shoot the basket.
Okay,
He'd shoot the basket with an arrow.
So so I watched 31 zombie movies this month. So my current character is a paladin, so she would probably do pretty well. The most recent movie I watched though was Zombieland. Zombieland Double Tap was the last of the movies I watched, and I would say she would survive probably pretty well because the zombies in that one are all kind of dumb. I guess. I don't know. I wasn't. I was a bit unimpressed with Zombieland Double Tap. So.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I guess that's my answer. Over on Facebook, Sean M says, Eloa is a fallen angel Aasimar divine soul sorcerer with necrotic and radiant tendencies. She's probably working for the agency in Cabin in the Woods. That's a good answer right there. That's also a good movie. Go watch Cabin in the Woods, everybody.
Yeah, that's great.
Colin says, CB, the Satyr Eloquence Bard, has the same charm and energy of the character and survivor, Cooper, in the movie Event Horizon, but none of the survival skills. And that's kind of important, especially if you're in Event Horizon. You do need survival skills.
Yeah.
Over on Reddit, we just got one. Alstar the Minotaur actually also rewatched Event Horizon. I feel safe in saying that my wizard, whose definition of evil is playing mean-spirited pranks on people, probably wouldn't do well in that situation. Yeah, it's a brutal movie for anyone not prepared. We did not get any responses on Twitter. Over on Discord, Debrasor says, my BFF and I just had a horror movie night. Last one we watched would be Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, and considering in that universe not a single person has survived the night there, I probably would be MIA, frowny face. Yeah. Collins B says, I feel like playing a character in a Star Wars campaign is kind of cheating, so with my last horror film being A Quiet Place Part 2, I think that a lightsaber-wielding, Night Sister magic-using badass will be able to handle himself against the aliens pretty well up to a point. I'm assuming that a lightsaber can get through their demonstrably thick skin since Kongu doesn't have any sound-based powers to exploit their weakness to high frequencies. But especially in the second movie, these things seem to be on a one-hit kill basis against humans, and while he's tough to hit, he'd be pretty screwed if there was more than one alien. Honorary mention to House of Ashes, which is a game, not a movie, but is more recent in my mind, and Kongu would be absolutely fine against the spoiler. He put what the monster is in that and spoiled it, so I'm not going to say it. So against the monsters, I guess. So yeah, I liked it. I thought A Quiet Place 2 was all right. Not as good as the first one. I feel like they did some really questionable things with how good the aliens are at surviving, but whatever.
Oh, sure. Jacob
the GM says, my wife refuses to watch horror movies. I have to watch them when I get the time. I don't know if Squid Game counts, but we're watching that right now. And I'll actually say that, I mean, you can answer. Sure. I'll take it as an answer. It's not a movie, but I mean, you can answer the question however you want. Jacob then also said that he didn't really like Squid Game. I just finished watching Squid Game actually, and I thought it was really good. And then Potato Plunderer says, I just finished watching Aliens, and man, does that movie ramp up the tension well. I feel that my country barbarian Valnir would just end up as cannon fodder to those xenomorphs. Game over, man. And yeah, I've seen Alien a couple times. I've only seen Aliens once. And I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I wasn't crazy about it. I know my friend Mike, who listens to the show, he loves Aliens. If anybody likes Alien or Aliens, and they want some of that along with some tabletop role playing, the podcast, The Film Reroll, I've mentioned them many times on the show before. Paolo, one of the main hosts of that podcast, was a guest on our show a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago they did Alien. They role played through the movie Alien.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2 episodes long. And then they just recently started doing Aliens, but it's a sequel to their version of Alien because it went slightly differently than the movie version of Alien.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if you're interested, they're not finished with Aliens yet. Probably even by the time this episode goes out, they won't be finished with it because they took a break to do something else. But it's really good so far. So if you like tabletop role-playing games and you like Alien, check out The Film Reroll. I'll put the link in the show notes.
Nice.
So I think that was all of the responses we got. Most of what people were talking about was just more stuff talking about Squid Game. So thank you everybody who wrote in. That was our last social media question. Our next social media question is, how often do you like to level up? So, do you like to level up every session? Every other session? Once a month? I don't know. Once every, I don't know. How often do you like to level up?
I wouldn't want to level up every session because then you only get one session out of that level,
Yeah, that's a good point.
You want to feel it out. You want to feel it out. So like I'd say you at least at the very most I'd ever want to level up is every other session, but I think even that is even that seems a bit much.
Yeah. I think it would probably largely depend on how often you're playing. But I personally would say probably every other session. I would be fine with that. I'm not going to be upset if it's less often, but
and and obviously it could go differently depending on the content of the session and that sort of thing. Like obviously if it's leveling up on when it was like a mostly role playing session, you could go an entire level without any like combat or something like that, and you're like, oh well, I didn't get to use any of my new things. My new abilities. Because I mean, like leveling up is mostly just gaining more combat ability.
Yeah, for the most part.
You get better, you get more points in, you get higher modifiers for your charisma checks, but for the most part, you're not going to get it's pretty rare that you're going to get a charisma ability through your class level ups.
Sure. Man, what if you did though?
Right. Yeah. You get. Yeah.
See, what if you leveled up and you got like a new negotiation ability?
Right. Yeah. Which I feel like there are such things. Like those kind of things do exist, but they're not as common as like, oh, okay, cool. Now I have my sneak attack does 2d6 now, or
sure. We've said it before. D&D is largely a combat game, so most of the book, at least, most of the page count is combat focused, which, it can be unfortunate.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm interested in seeing what our listeners have to say, how often they like to level up. So get those into us, I guess. So that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down. Let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who came before us, who gave their lives, possibly fighting one or more gods or fewer, so that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Recycle Raccoon via Reddit. Gnomish alchemist carrying a pack full of alchemical weapons. Fighting in a tunnel, I get clipped by a caster's fireball. I fail my save, take max damage, and survive with 2 hit points. The GM tells me I failed a save, so I have to make a save for anything that was flammable or fragile. I spend the next 30 minutes rolling and calculating damage from the sympathetic explosions.
Mm-hmm.
Good news, nobody else died.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, that's... Jeff, you remember the necklace of fireballs?
Yeah.
That had a rule that if you failed maybe it was only on a natural one, I can't remember. It was like if you failed a save against a fire spell, you had to make a save for each individual fireball on your necklace. And then those
right,
would blow
yeah,
up.
that could also go off, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
What a weird game this has been in the past.
Right.
Anyway, so let's raise a glass in memory of this unnamed gnomish alchemist as we remind them flammable and inflammable mean the same thing. Clink. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Reddit, we're on our Interparty Discord, we're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on the podcatcher of your choice. We are on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you want to support the show monetarily, we've mostly canceled our Patreon, but I will be keeping it up for the foreseeable future. So if you want to just toss us $1 or whatever through our Patreon, you can find that at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. Jeff, tell us about Friend Quest.
Friend Quest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games.
There you go. Also head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about the show. Basically, it's just asking what your favorite memory is of the podcast. And if you take it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of the great people over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
If somebody asks if you're a god, you say yes.